welcome to this week's Meaningful Midweek Conversation. We're here today with Paul and Maxine. Paul from Narrowboat Life Unlocked and Maxine from Never Too Late Our Journey. And it's good to be back. It's been a strange week since we last spoke. A lot has happened. So I thought this week, rather than pick a subject that we'll pull apart, let's just talk about the Queen. So before we jump into that, let's find out where everybody is and what we're up to. Maxine, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think I'm still at the same place as I was last week because I'm at Drake Hall, and it's ideal because it's not too far from all our friends here, there, and everywhere, and visiting people. And then this weekend we've got 30 people. All our family from Iceland are coming over, so it's going to be very nice.
Nice. Sounds like a great meeting place that you've got there. So yeah, fab. Have a great time. Paul, where are you and what are you up to?
First of all, Maxine, did you say 30 people?
Yeah. I hope the weather's going to be good.
I know, everything's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It will be. So, yeah, we spent a lovely couple of weeks in Church Minchell, one of our favourite places, stunning views and a pub in. We've had a few meals in there, which has been nice. And then yesterday, I took the boat on my own because Anthony was in work, through Midweek and down towards Northwich. So yeah, we're close to Northwich now, and we're just sort of cruising up and down this stretch of canal until we can head towards the Clanlochlin in October.
Oh, that's not long now. October is only a couple of weeks away, isn't it? I can't believe it.
Yeah.
That is going to be so lovely to be on that canal when it's quieter as well. So I just want to say hello to Claire and Gordon who are joining us today. So shall we get started on the topic of the week? So Queen Elizabeth, last Thursday when we spoke, I mean, I didn't have any inkling of what was going to unfold. So I've got to say, we're not coming to this conversation as experts in the monarchy, as historians or anyone else with great knowledge. I'm not. I've got to say, I'm coming to this conversation just to talk about our experiences of Queen Elizabeth and what she meant to us and what her passing means to us as well. So when we spoke last Thursday, we finished speaking about 1:45, didn't we? And then the news came in the afternoon and that she was unwell, and then the family members started heading to Balmoral, and then we got the news. So where were you when you heard the news, Maxine?
I was sat on the back of the boat and we'd just been chatting, and I expected it because of all the family to Balmoral and everything, so it didn't surprise me. It's just saw it on my it flashed up on my phone when we sat on the back of the boat.
Really. And what about you, Paul?
Yeah, we just finished our conversation, haven't we? And we're having a good laugh afterwards. So Anthony texted me from work and said it looks like the Queen might be passing away. And it was a real shock. As you know, I don't really watch the news or read newspapers. But then I think it came up on my phone as well. I think what was quite moving for us, because we were near a church, being Church Minchell, they rang the bell 96 times that day. Really? I thought that was really nice. Yeah.
So poignant, isn't it? The sound of the bells ringing. Well, last Thursday we had our friends Louise and Dave arrive in the afternoon, and my daughter had texted me and said the Queen's really ill, and I sort of brushed it off. I just thought, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. This isn't something to worry about today. I don't know why I thought that. I just thought this she'll be fine. And then we went to bingo, and we were literally like with our bingo pens at the ready when I heard murmurs from people around us. And I realised that she'd passed away. Looked at Glenn's phone to confirm it. And it was. So that it was a real shock for me. I was really shocked. But also, I at the work I do with the parish council as communications officer, I'd been the person that had formulated what they call Operation London Bridge, which is what happens when the Queen dies. So I knew at that point that actually, rather than spending time on Friday with our friends and all the stuff we'd got planned, that it would mean a busy work day for me. So I was trying to process, the Queen's died, and then I was thinking, right, I need to, get this statement out. I need this. We need to know what, So it was just a strange time, a really, really strange time. So, just want to say hello to everybody who's joined us: Spence, Keith, Kath, and Louise from Narrowboat Changing Pace. So,
hello.
So let's talk about the Queen. What's your earliest memory of the Queen? Maxine, do you want to go?
I think mine. Sorry, I've got to remember. Pause. I've got a delay. Mine, I think, is the Silver Jubilee, because we had street parties, because I used to live in a village then, and we were all the school, the mugs and everything. And that's my biggest earliest memory. Yeah. Paul,
what about you?
Yeah, well, funny enough, when I do remember the Silver Jubilee quite clearly. I think I was about 9 or 10 at the time, and I was 9, and I remember us having a big street party, and how everybody put bunting up on the houses, and Maxine, that was a nice memory I'd forgotten about, with the cups, and we got a coin as well, Silver Jubilee coin. But I remember, I think it was the year before, we had a May Day Queen parade. And I really thought the Queen was coming to the parade. I was quite disappointed when it was some 15-year-old.
Yeah, I could see how that would be quite disappointing. I'm the same. It was the Silver Jubilee for me. I remember the street party. I remember the mug. I remember getting this mug from school, and I thought it was amazing. I also got a coin, and I'd completely forgotten about that until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Paul. So that was my earliest memory, and I was, about the same age as well. And then I've got to admit, the royal family didn't really play a big role in my life. I mean, we knew the Queen was there. She was just there. Up, to the point of the whole Charles and Diana getting married, and then it sort of came more into the forefront, and then the messy end, when they got divorced and all the drama. But I've got to say, throughout my years, I've always really admired the Queen, but not been a, ardent royal fan. It's just, she's always been there. What about you, Maxine? How would you see yourself?
I think very similar, but I know we always do Queen's speech at Christmas. That was given in the family. But again, she was on telly, obviously we used to watch it, but there was nothing until it was mainly really when she got married, and then it we seem to watch more, and then obviously everything that happened after that.
Yeah. Paul, what impact has the royal family played on your life after, you know, you got your mug and your coin?
Well, I was going to ask you both actually, but Maxine's just mentioned it. You know, did you watch the Christmas speech by the Queen every year, Lisa, or was it not something that you really bothered with? Do
you know what? I always like to watch it, but because our Christmas days are really hectic time in our family, and it was never, we never got to sort of sit down and see it live. There was always way too many children and grandchildren and chaos going on. I remember as a child, though, I have memories of watching the Queen's speech. So in, you know, in recent history, I have watched it, but not until later in the day. But as a child, it was definitely something that was part of our Christmas Day routine.
It was something that, it was part of our Christmas routine. So we used to have a Christmas dinner and we'd all sit down to watch the Queen's speech, and we did that for years and years. And then Anthony's not a massive fan of the royal family. He admires the Queen. But yeah, I think I've always been quite a big fan of the royal family, and so it's something that I, you know, wanted to do, but again, sometimes it depends on the actual circumstances. But I wouldn't say I'm the biggest royal fan in the world, but I don't know, I really do like the royal family. It makes you proud to be British. I remember the first time I went over to America, and there was that daft film where the whole royal family was wiped out and there was some American ancestor became king of England. And it showed you all the pomp and ceremony and and it just made you feel really proud to be British. And Prince Charles, I met Prince Charles in 1986, and I got a grant from the Prince's Trust. So I've always admired Prince Charles for that. And I know he had a lot of, you know, he got a lot of flack, didn't he, from the whole Princess Diana thing. But he came to do a speech for these young people who were aged about 18 to 25, and he should have been there for 2 hours. And you can imagine he's got a very busy schedule, and he spent 4 hours chatting to everybody and gave a really passionate speech afterwards. So I've always had a soft spot for Charles. Really.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, or maybe I'm just speaking for myself, I don't know, but it's a tricky balance, because you've got incredible wealth and privilege, which seems to go against, you know, a lot of what we believe, you know, should be in a sort of fair and democratic society. You know, it doesn't seem right. But I too, you know, admire the royal family. So there is this sort of, what's the word? Is it dichotomy? Is that a word? Did I just make that up?
My brain. I don't know what it means.
No, I don't. But anyway, there's this strange, like, two things that don't, they don't sort of resonate. And you know, I just think it's a difficult one.
Did you see that picture? And I just thought it was such a powerful photo, and I think it's probably one of those historic photos that we look back in a long time, in years to come. And it was a picture of a homeless person on the ground next to the Queen on the bus stop. And you think, you know, and she's wrapped in all this jewelry and refinery, and it's difficult, isn't it? I do think that the royal family bring a lot to this country and bring a lot of income to this country. But then, it is difficult when you see homeless people and the riches they're surrounded by.
Those two images, you know, side by side, you know, it's difficult to reconcile. But I agree. I think they bring an awful lot. Paul, you just mentioned the pageantry, and I popped round to see my mum yesterday, and she's had the telly on, you know, pretty much non-stop. And as I just sat and watched, it was, the pageantry is just on a whole nother level. I've never seen anything like it before. And it got me wondering whether this huge occasion, whether it offers us like an opportunity to be involved. I know we're not there, and I know that, you know, a million people you know, in London, you know, to take part in that. But whether that pageantry is either completely irrelevant in today's society and not needed, or whether in fact it plays an important role, again, to another extreme. What do you reckon, Maxine?
I think everybody can be involved, because you've got obviously you can go down to London, which it is being televised, so that you've got the option if you want to be involved. You can. It's history that's in the making. So I must admit, I've watched quite a lot of it, because I do find it extremely moving. And again, it's a history, you know, within our country, and so I think they should be allowed to be involved. I'm very, very sorry for the closeness of the family, because they're not having any time to grieve. And I know they are a royalty, and yes, they should, but they still should have that time thrown into everything, and watching their faces, it's quite sad sometimes.
It is. I agree. Paul, what do you reckon on the pageantry?
Yeah, I agree with all the points Maxine's made, and I've never watched as much news as I've watched the past week, and I've even downloaded the BBC app, and I like to watch what's going on, and it does make you feel involved, and it is a massive part of our history. Yes, I think it's amazing what they're doing. Yeah, I can't think, but yeah, I know a lot of people. There's a lot of indifference, isn't there? Some people think it's an awful lot of expense that we could do without, but then I'd argue that the royal family probably bring in that much income per year to the country, you know, so what they're spending on the funeral, and it's well deserved, because to give 70 years of your life to your country, you know, it's just, yeah. I know a lot of people said, you know, the royal family are very privileged, but they do have that sense of duty. And like Maxine said, it's difficult, isn't it, that they've got to just do their duty, put duty first, and that's what the Queen always did. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Paul, actually, because that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about, is a life of service. So over 70 years as the Queen, and she worked up until, you know, the day before, 2 days before, you know, she passed away at 96. I mean, when you just comprehend that is amazing. And I think one of my not memories, but one of the things about the Queen is her service, and I think that is just astounding. And it made me think, what would our world look like if we had more people that served in that way? I mean, it's just staggering, isn't it, to think of how she prioritized, often above her family, often, you know, above, you know, any personal things that she had going on, that her objective, her you know, was to serve the country is astounding. So a lot to learn, I think, about what service looks like. What's your view on that, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, anyone that's watched The Crown, and we absolutely love the series, you know, we know it's a drama, but a lot of it is based on historical fact. And, you know, the things that she had to do to put her duties first before family, you know, is one of the, you know, Princess Margaret fell out with her, and other, you know, Prince Charles wasn't allowed to marry Camilla initially. So yeah, it must be so difficult to put duty first and then still keep that strong family bond. But yeah, if anyone's not seen The Crown, I know it's trending as #1, isn't it, on Netflix at the moment?
I have seen it. I want to watch it again. I do. I mean, I loved it. I loved it. Have you seen it, Maxine?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I've seen it advertised recently, but it's not something I'd never watched before.
Oh, honestly, check it out. Check it out. It was, I so
amazing.
enjoyed it. I really, really did. And I think I'll watch it again with new eyes this time as well. So, yeah, that's fabulous. So, what else? We've talked about service, but what other qualities did the Queen possess, you think, that made her a great monarch? Can you think of, I mean, there's so much wrapped up in that word service, isn't there? But I think I think it's
great dignity is something that's, comes to my mind. It's just the dignity, and I think that's why she is so well loved all over the world. And it's quite moving, isn't it, to see all the tributes coming in from different countries and how it's affected them as well.
Yeah, it is. It's so lovely to hear a lot of people that had watched our vlog on Sunday from all around the world message me with ways that their country had marked and honoured the Queen, and that was so touching. So let's just have a look. What's Pamela saying? I was born in Windsor. My granddad was a chef for the Queen. My mum used to make her hats and met my dad in wartime. He was is it a Grenadier Guard? So I love them. Wow,
Grenadier Guard.
Yeah, Grenadier. Sorry,
I think it's Grenadier, isn't it?
Yeah. That is rich family history there, Pamela. Yeah. Let's have a look. Is this Kelly? Hello, my lovelies. I love the Queen. It's so hard for the royals to be in the eye at every move. The Queen was such a big character, not just to her family, but the country. Yeah, completely. I think having those cameras on them pretty much 24/7 has been hard to watch, as you said, Maxine. And who did anyone else find that on Thursday, when they started to use the word King Charles, it sounded odd? It just well, for the first thing, in my head, the only time the word King Charles was ever used was with the word spaniel at the end. So every time they said the word King Charles, in my head, it just went spaniel. And then that took a couple of days. Honestly, that took a couple of days for my brain to drop that. It sounded odd. But now it's, I'm getting used to the word, the idea, I was going to say the concept that Charles is king. I mean, we always knew that was going to happen, but it just felt so odd for a couple of days. What did you think, Paul, with the King Charles?
Yeah, exactly the same. I hope we never have to introduce King Charles, because she'll be saying this is King Charles Spaniel.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, but it was weird because, I mean, we went to the pub for a meal and a drink with friends, and we had a toast to the Queen, and we said, God save the King. And it's never been part of our history. All of our lives we've had the Queen, and it just felt really odd to say God save the King. And it's quite moving to hear people saying that as well, isn't it? When when he's visiting somewhere and they all stand and say God save the King, it's quite moving.
Yeah. Maxine, what were your views when you first heard the words King Charles? Obviously not like me. Obviously I'm the only person in the world that's got the association with King Charles and King Charles Spaniels. But what was your thoughts?
I must admit, it really like brought a lump to my throat when I first heard it, because it's the end, and I think obviously when we sing that national anthem, and that's going to be really strange and everything. It was a bit of a wow and a lump in the throat.
So strange, isn't it? So strange.
Do you both think, sorry to interrupt, but do you both think, a lot of people have been saying that we don't realise what we had until we've not got it anymore in regards to the Queen, that a lot of people and younger people didn't really think, you know, it just wasn't part of their vocabulary, and they just thought the royal family would always be there. Sorry, I think there's someone going past that knows there's the beeping hole. But yeah, do you think there'll be a newfound respect for the royal family, and almost that, you know, we shouldn't take this royal family for granted? Do you think it, you know, in a strange way, it may be a good thing for the royal family?
I think so.
Yeah, go on, Maxine.
And especially the way that Charles has presented himself since it's happened. I mean, how he's gone and shaken every crowd and everything outside Buckingham Palace. I mean, that was a hell of a thing to do straight after.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting. I think if you were on the fence about the royal family, which, to be honest, a lot of the country are, you know, you've got the people that are ardent anti-royalists, you've got people that are real avid, you know, royalists, and then there's the majority of people who have respect for the Queen, or had huge respect for the Queen, but were just a bit I think the same, Paul, whether this outpouring of loss and sympathy to the royal family will, when I use the word, set them up for the next generation. That sounds coarse, and that's not what I mean, but I agree, Paul. I think it has brought the monarchy into to the forefront of our focus,
and give people a newfound respect, I think, for the royal family, especially the way they've carried themselves out with the duties.
I think so. Also, going back to what you said, Paul, about not knowing what we've got till we lose it, the Queen was 96 years old. It should not have been a shock to us that she was going to die. I just thought she was going to live forever, and that sounds crazy as I say it, but that's the way I felt. It's like you couldn't imagine the Queen not. I mean, I'd written, you know, the organisation I worked for, response to Operation London Bridge. You think that would prepare you for that, but it didn't. It was such a shock to the system, and it's funny, isn't it, how some people, we just think they're gonna be there forever.
I think you just think they're going to be around forever, don't you? And you know, I know, like you say, she's 96. I mean, the Queen mum was 101, and I just thought, you know, the Queen would go on for a couple more years. You know, it's so when we heard that she wasn't well, you think, oh, hope it's not too serious. But again, you think it's probably been overcautious for an elderly person. But it's just hard to comprehend the reality of it, isn't it?
And I think she's everywhere. You know, she's on her money, she's on her stamp, she's everywhere. So it feels very difficult. Sorry, Maxine, I interrupted.
No, it's all right. No, she was poorly when she was with the Prime Minister two days before. Compared the guy, and then seeing her like that, you could see such a change in her. So then really,
do you know, my dad, when he was in his last weeks of life, you know, they were like, it's going to be any day now, and he lasted, you know, another week and a half, you know, and when I heard that she was ill, I was like, oh, that's going to come, you know, in the next 10 days, and didn't think it was going to come within the next couple of hours. So it really was a shock. What are you planning to do on Monday, the day of the funeral?
Personally, I would love to go down to London and join the queues of people before the funeral, but it's just not going to be possible. And I think, you'd have to be queuing up for about 20 hours or something, wouldn't you? And it's not something that we could possibly do because, but it's a shame. But I suppose it is good that it's going to be televised. We've not made any plans for Monday. I think in some way we'll all sort of make our own marks, we'll pay our own respects, won't we, on that day?
Yeah. Maxine, have you got any plans?
We will either be watching it. Well, I will watch parents because we'll be over that way for the weekend. So, but I'll definitely sit and watch it. It just gets to me.
Yeah, it's tough going, isn't it? It really is. And that's why I think I know myself, if I sit on the sofa and watch the whole thing from beginning to end, that's going to be tough. I'm thinking that maybe what I might do is early, get up and go for a really long walk, and then maybe take a nice lunch or afternoon tea over to my mum's and sit with my mum and watch it. So I don't know. I haven't got anything planned yet, but I'm thinking that that would maybe be a way to spend it. Let's just have a look what Ben's saying. In general speaking, you can take a lot of things for granted, and when things change, then you have a different outlook on life. That's true, isn't it? Yeah. Jules is saying, I've put bunting up and we're having a roast dinner watching the TV. Oh, that's lovely, actually. A roast dinner. Roast dinner on a Monday. That is a special occasion. So, I've just, I was just saying, Kelly put, I think I read that one out. I did read that one out, wasn't it, from Kelly, to say that the Queen was such a big character. Yeah, I did. So, there's a lot. So, to end the conversation, how will you remember Queen Elizabeth II? I think for me, it will be her dignity and her service and her turning up every single day to do the job, the one thing that that was her role, that she turned up every single day, that commitment. I suppose that's what I'm saying, the commitment, the dignity, and I think that just encompasses her for me. How will you remember her, Paul?
Yeah, I think the same thing: dignity, service. Bringing up a family under very difficult circumstances in the public eye. And on the whole, I think the royal family have turned out well. There's the odd one that doesn't talk about, but I think for me, some of the most moving images, and I found it really emotional, were when she arrived back at Buckingham Palace in the evening and everyone was stood around, and those images I found really moving. And the fact that somebody said she's going back to her childhood home, and somebody in the crowd said it's almost like she's still working a magic. And I thought that was a really nice way to sum it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And a friend of mine, before I come to you, Maxine, I just want to say a friend of mine said something very similar, but it was like, even in her death, Her Majesty is working. I mean, she is, she's died, and yet still she is, there at the forefront of our mind. And sorry, Maxine, what are the ways that you'll remember the Queen going forward?
No, it's all right. I think the same as what Paul said, but also I think when you look back and see the photographs and there was lots of, she acted normally. So if she got a family who was quite happy to laugh and giggle about it, which was absolutely dumb. And she pleased people, and she was quite open about the way she was with just everybody thing.
Which is amazing, really, when you think for someone who's 96, the things she's experienced, what the world was like 96 years ago, 86 years ago, 76 years ago, what the world was like when she was a young woman has changed so much. So not only is like society changed, but as a monarch, you have to life is more rigid, so to be able to show that flexibility to grow under those conditions, I think is amazing. So anyway, I'm gonna say that we've done. Oh, there's more that we could talk for ages about the monarchy, the future of the monarchy, whether do a deep dive, whether it's good for our country or not. But I think we've covered it today. So rather than keep going, I think this will be a really good point to say goodbye and God bless to Her Majesty the Queen. I just, it's going to be incredibly moving on Monday for us all. I think whatever your views, I think it's history being made, isn't it? So thank you for joining us. Hello to everybody, and thank you for taking part, for listening, for showing up this week. We really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to checking in with you next week. All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.